Someone broke into her house in the dead of night. One desperate text changed everything. What she didn't know was that the man who'd been watching her for months wasn't just a stranger, he was the most dangerous protector she could have asked for. Some rescues come with a price. If you're new here, subscribe and comment your location. Now let's begin. Elena Martinez had been working at Rosie's diner for 2 years. Every morning felt the same. She would wake up at 5, shower, pull her dark hair into a ponytail, and catch the bus that smelled like old coffee and disappointment. By 6:30, she was behind the counter, smiling at customers who barely looked at her. But there was one customer who always looked. Damon Cale. He walked through the door at 7:15 every single morning. Not 7:10, not 7:20, always 7:15, like he had an alarm set just for this moment. He was tall, the kind of tall that made other men look small. His suits were dark and expensive. His shoes were shined so well Elena could see her reflection in them. His face was hard, like it had been carved from stone, but his eyes were different. They were dark brown, almost black, and when he looked at her, it felt like he could see everything she was hiding. Damon never smiled, he never made small talk. He would walk to the counter, and Elena would pour his coffee before he even opened his mouth. Black, no sugar, no cream, always the same. Then he would pull out a $100 bill and leave it on the counter. The first time he did it, Elena chased him to the door. "Sir, this is too much. The coffee is only $3. Damon had stopped, turned slowly, and looked at her with those dark eyes. "I know what I'm paying for," he said. His voice was deep and quiet, like distant thunder. Then he walked out. After that, Elena stopped arguing. She needed the money too badly. Every morning, Damon would take his coffee to the back corner booth. He would sit there for exactly 45 minutes, and he would watch her, not in a creepy way. It was different. It felt like protection, like he was making sure nothing bad could happen to her while he was there. The other waitresses noticed. "Girl, that man is obsessed with you," Rita whispered one morning, refilling the sugar dispensers. Rita was 52 and had worked at Rosie's longer than anyone. She had seen everything. "He just likes the coffee," Elena said, wiping down the counter. Rita laughed so hard she snorted. "Baby, that man is not here for the coffee, he's here for you, and those tips, that's not normal, that's a man who's claiming something." Elena's stomach twisted. She didn't want to be claimed. She didn't want to be anything to anyone, especially not to a man who looked like he could break someone in half without blinking. But every morning, she poured his coffee, and every morning, he watched her, and every morning, she pretended not to notice the way her hands shook when he was near. The trouble was, Elena had bigger problems than mysterious men in expensive suits. During her break, she sat in the back room and opened her phone. Her bank account showed $237. Rent was due in 5 days. That would take most of it. Then there was food, bus fare, her mother's medications. And the debt. $50,000. Elena closed her eyes and wanted to scream. Her mother, Gloria, had been diagnosed with stage 3 cancer 8 months ago. The treatment the insurance would cover wasn't working. There was an experimental trial in California, but it cost money, so much money, more money than Elena could ever make pouring coffee. So she had gone to the wrong people. James Torino ran a loan operation out of a pawn shop on 5th Street. Everyone in the neighborhood knew him. He was short and round, with small eyes that never stopped moving. He smiled when he gave you money, but that smile was a lie. Elena had borrowed $50,000. The interest was criminal. She had been paying for 6 months, and somehow she still owed $50,000. The number never went down. Last week, James had sent 2 of his guys to the diner, Daniel and Mark. They were big, mean-looking men with tattoos on their necks and violence in their eyes. "Your payment is late," Daniel had said, leaning against the counter like he owned the place. "I'll have it by Friday," Elena had whispered, her heart pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. "You better," Mark said. He smiled, but it wasn't friendly, because James is getting tired of waiting, and when James gets tired, people get hurt. They had left, and Elena had run to the bathroom and thrown up. That was 4 days ago. She didn't have the money, not even close. On this particular morning, as Elena poured coffee for a businessman who didn't say thank you, Damon walked in. 7:15, exactly on time. Elena's hands were shaking worse than usual. She poured his coffee and set it on the counter. Damon looked at her for a long moment. His eyes narrowed slightly, like he could see the fear crawling under her skin. He reached for the coffee, and his fingers brushed against hers. Elena gasped. His hand was warm and rough. The touch lasted only a second, but it felt like electricity. Damon pulled his hand back and reached into his jacket. For a terrifying moment, Elena thought he was reaching for a gun, but instead, he pulled out a small black card. It was blank, except for a single phone number printed in silver. He slid it across the counter toward her. "What is this?" Elena whispered. "For when you're ready to stop drowning," Damon said quietly. His eyes locked onto hers, and for the first time she saw something in them that wasn't just protection. It was understanding, like he knew exactly what kind of trouble she was in. Then he picked up his coffee, left the $100 bill, and walked to his usual booths. Elena stared at the black card. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. The number gleamed under the fluorescent lights. She should throw it away. She should want nothing to do with whatever world this man came from. But she slipped it into her pocket instead. That evening, Elena's shift ended at 4. She took the bus home, clutching her purse tight against her body. The neighborhood got worse the closer she got to her apartment. Broken windows, graffiti on every wall, people sitting on steps who watched her with hungry eyes. She walked fast, keys already in her hand. She was 2 blocks from home when she heard footsteps behind her. Elena's heart jumped into her throat. She walked faster. The footsteps matched her pace. Elena Martinez. She stopped. She knew that voice. She turned slowly. Daniel and Mark stood behind her. They were both smiling. "We need to talk," Daniel said. "I told you I'll have the money by Friday," Elena said. Her voice came out thin and scared. "Friday's not good enough anymore," Mark said, stepping closer. "James wants his money now, tomorrow, all of it." "I don't have it," Elena whispered. "Please, I just need a little more time." Daniel laughed. It was a cold sound. "You've had 6 months, time's up." 24 hours, Mark said. "You bring $50,000 to the pawn shop by 8 p.m. tomorrow, or we're coming for you and your mother." Elena's blood turned to ice. "Don't you touch her, she's sick. She has nothing to do with this." "Then you better find the money," Daniel said. He stepped so close Elena could smell cigarettes on his breath. "Because if you don't, we're going to make you wish you had." They walked away, laughing. Elena stood on the sidewalk, shaking so hard she could barely stand. $50,000, 24 hours, it was impossible. She made it home and locked the door behind her. Her apartment was small and old. The paint was peeling, the heater barely worked, but it was hers and it was safe. Or it used to be. Elena checked on her mother. Gloria was asleep in the bedroom, her breathing rough and uneven. The cancer was winning. The treatments weren't working anymore. Elena kissed her forehead and whispered, "I'll figure this out, Mama, I promise." But she had no idea how. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through every possible solution. She could run, pack up her mother and disappear. But where would they go? James had connections everywhere. He would find them. She could go to the police, but what would she say? She had borrowed money willingly, signed papers. The police wouldn't help. She thought about the black card in her purse, about Damon's dark eyes and his quiet voice, "For when you're ready to stop drowning." No, she couldn't. Whatever world that man lived in was dangerous, more dangerous than James and his thugs. She had to find another way. But there was no other way. At 2 a.m., Elena finally drifted into a restless sleep. At 2:17, she woke to the sound of splintering wood. Her front door was being kicked in. Elena sat up so fast her head spun. She heard voices, heavy footsteps. Someone laughed. "Where are you, little bird?" Daniel's voice echoed through the apartment. Terror like she had never known flooded through Elena's body. She grabbed her phone from the nightstand and ran to the bathroom. She locked the door and pressed her back against it, breathing so hard she thought she might pass out. Something shattered in the living room, glass breaking. They were destroying everything. Come out," Mark sang. His footsteps got closer. Elena's hands shook so badly she almost dropped her phone. She tried to dial 911, but her fingers wouldn't work. And even if she called, the police wouldn't come in time. Not to this neighborhood, not for her. The footsteps stopped right outside the bathroom door. "We know you're in there," Daniel said. His voice was so close, right on the other side of the thin door. Something slammed against the door. Elena screamed. They were going to break it down. They were going to kill her. She needed help, right now. With shaking hands, Elena pulled her purse off the floor and dumped everything out. Lipstick, old receipts, gum wrappers, and the black card. She grabbed it and opened her messages. Her vision was blurry with tears. She typed in the number. Another slam against the door. The wood cracked. Elena typed one word, help. She hit send. Then she dropped the phone and pressed herself against the door, praying to a god she wasn't sure believed in her anymore. The bathroom door shook with another impact. It wouldn't hold much longer. "When we get in there, you're going to regret making us chase you," Mark said. Elena closed her eyes. This was it. This was how she died. In a broken bathroom in a broken apartment because she had tried to save her mother. Then suddenly, everything went quiet. The footsteps stopped. The pounding stopped. Elena held her breath, listening. She heard a new sound. Tires screeching outside, multiple vehicles, doors slamming, lots of them. "What the?" Daniel's voice cut off. Heavy footsteps entered the apartment, many of them moving fast. "Who the hell are you?" Mark shouted. There was a sound like something heavy hitting, something soft, a grunt, a body hitting the floor. "Get your hands off me," Daniel yelled. More sounds of a struggle, then silence. Elena pressed her ear against the door, her heart hammering. Then a knock, gentle, 3 soft taps. "Elena," that voice, deep and calm and familiar. "It's safe. You can open the door." "Damon!" Elena's hands shook as she unlocked the door. She pulled it open slowly. Damon Cale stood in her tiny hallway, looking completely out of place in his perfect suit. Behind him, her apartment was full of men, 20 of them, maybe more. They wore dark clothes. They carried guns. They moved with military precision. Daniel and Mark were on their knees in her living room, hands behind their heads, blood dripping from their noses. 2 of Damon's men stood over them, weapons drawn. Damon's eyes found Elena's. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "Good," Damon turned to his men. "Get them out of here. Make sure they understand what happens if they ever come near her again." "Please," Daniel whimpered. "We didn't know she was yours. We didn't know." "Now you do," Damon said coldly. The men dragged Daniel and Mark out of the apartment. Elena heard them being thrown into a vehicle outside. Tires screeched, then silence. Elena stood in the bathroom doorway, staring at the man who had just saved her life. Damon stepped closer. "Pack a bag. You're not staying here tonight." "My mother is being taken to a private facility where she'll receive the best care available. That's already handled." Elena blinked. "What? How did you?" "I've known about your situation for a long time, Elena," Damon said quietly. "The debt, your mother, all of it. I was waiting for you to ask for help." "I don't understand." Damon's expression softened just slightly. "The debt is gone. James Torino won't bother you again, ever. Your mother's treatment is paid for. You're safe now." Elena's legs gave out. She would have fallen if Damon hadn't caught her. His arms were strong and steady. He held her like she weighed nothing. Why? Elena whispered against his chest. Why would you do this for me? Damon was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, because from the moment I saw you, you were mine to protect. I was just waiting for you to let me in. Elena didn't remember much about that night. Everything felt like a dream wrapped in shock. Damon's men moved through her apartment like ghosts, cleaning up the damage, packing her things. One of them, a man named Marcus with kind eyes, gently woke her mother and explained that she was being transferred to a better facility. Gloria was too weak to argue. She just looked at Elena with confused, worried eyes. It's okay, Mama, Elena whispered, holding her mother's frail hand. We are safe now, I promise. They took Gloria in a private car with a nurse. Elena watched them drive away, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. Damon put his hand on her shoulder. She'll be comfortable. The doctors there are the best in the country. They specialize in her type of cancer. Elena turned to look at him, really look at him. In the dim light of her apartment, he looked less like a statue and more like a man. A dangerous man, yes, but a man who had just moved heaven and earth to save her. Who are you? She asked. Really? Damon's mouth curved slightly. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. Someone who doesn't like seeing good people suffer. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give you tonight. He gestured toward a black SUV waiting outside. Come, you need rest. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to demand real answers, but exhaustion hit her like a wave. She nodded and let him lead her to the vehicle. The SUV was more luxurious than anything Elena had ever been in. Leather seats, tinted windows, it smelled like expensive cologne and power. Damon sat beside her as they drove through the city. Elena watched the lights blur past, her mind racing. This morning she had been a broke waitress drowning in debt. Now she was sitting next to a man who commanded 20 armed soldiers with a single word. Where are we going? She asked quietly. Somewhere safe. They drove for 30 minutes, leaving the broken neighborhoods behind. The buildings got taller, cleaner, more expensive. They pulled up to a high-rise that looked like it cost more than Elena would make in 10 lifetimes. Damon's penthouse was on the top floor. When the elevator doors opened, Elena stepped into a different world. Floor to ceiling, windows showed the entire city spread out below like a carpet of lights. The furniture was modern and expensive. Everything was black and white and chrome. It looked like something from a magazine. You'll stay in the guest room, Damon said, leading her down a hallway. It has its own bathroom. There are clothes in the closet that should fit you. How did you? I pay attention, Damon said simply. He opened a door to reveal a bedroom that was bigger than Elena's entire apartment. The bed looked like a cloud. There was a sitting area with a couch and a television. Through another door, she could see a bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. Rest, Damon said. We'll talk in the morning. He started to leave, but Elena caught his arm. His muscles were solid under her fingers. Thank you, she whispered, for saving me, for my mother, for everything. Damon looked down at her hand on his arm, then up at her face. Something flickered in his dark eyes, something warm and intense. You never have to thank me for protecting what's mine, he said softly. Then he was gone, closing the door quietly behind him. Elena stood there for a long moment, her hand still tingling from touching him. What's mine? Those words should have scared her, should have made her want to run. Instead, they made her feel safer than she had in years. She showered in the enormous bathroom, using soap that smelled like vanilla and honey. She found pajamas in the closet, soft silk that felt like water against her skin. Then she climbed into the bed and sank into mattress that felt like sleeping on a cloud. For the first time in 6 months, Elena slept without nightmares. She woke to sunlight streaming through the windows. For a confused moment, she didn't know where she was. Then it all came back. The attack, Damon, the rescue. Elena got up and found clothes laid out on the chair, jeans that fit perfectly, a soft sweater, even undergarments in exactly her size. It should have been creepy, but somehow it wasn't. It just felt like Damon had been paying attention. She got dressed and followed the smell of coffee. Damon was in the kitchen, standing at the stove. He wore dark pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Elena could see tattoos on his forearms, complex patterns that looked like they meant something. He looked up when she entered. "Coffee, please." He poured her a cup, black, because somehow he knew that's how she'd been drinking it for the past year to save money on cream and sugar. Elena took it and sat at the kitchen island. The coffee was perfect, better than anything at the diner. "How do you feel?" Damon asked. "Confused, grateful, scared." "Scared of me?" Elena thought about that. She should be scared. This man had 20 armed men who jumped at his command. He had made her debt disappear overnight. He clearly wasn't someone who followed normal rules. But when she looked at him, all she felt was safe. "No," she said finally, "I'm not scared of you. I'm scared of what happens next." Damon nodded slowly. He leaned against the counter, his dark eyes studying her. "What happens next is up to you." "What do you mean?" "Your debt is gone. Your mother is being cared for. You're safe. You can go back to your life if you want. Keep working at the diner. I'll make sure no one ever bothers you again." "Oh, or you can stay here with me. Let me take care of you properly." Elena's heart started beating faster. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." "I know you better than you think." Damon moved closer, but stopped a respectful distance away. "I know you work 12-hour shifts and never complain. I know you give half your tips to the homeless man who sits outside the diner. I know you visit your mother every single day after work, even though it takes 2 buses to get to her facility. I know you're kind and strong and loyal." "You've been watching me," Elena whispered. "Yes." "For how long?" "6 months, since the day you first came to James Torino for money." Elena's blood ran cold. "You knew about the loan sharks this whole time?" "Yes." "And you just watched while they threatened me?" Damon's jaw tightened. "I was waiting for you to ask for help. I couldn't force my protection on you. You had to want it." "People could have hurt me." "No one was ever going to hurt you." Damon's voice went hard. "I had men watching you every second. If those thugs had touched you, they would have been dead before they hit the ground. But I needed you to understand that you could trust me, that I would come when you called." Elena stood up, her hands shaking. "This was insane, all of it. What are you, Mafia, cartel? Some kind of crime lord? Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters. I don't even know your real name." "Damon Cale is my real name, and yes, I run an organization that operates outside the law. I control territory. I have enemies. My life is dangerous." He stepped closer. "But I would never let that danger touch you." "You can't promise that." "I can, and I do." Damon was right in front of her now, close enough that Elena could feel the heat coming off his body. "I've been alone my entire life, Elena. I've never wanted to protect anyone the way I want to protect you. Never felt this need to make someone mine." "I'm not a possession," Elena said, but her voice came out breathless. "No, you're not." Damon's hand came up slowly, giving her time to move away. When she didn't, he touched her face gently. His fingers were rough, but his touch was soft. "You're something more precious than that. You're the first person I've met in 20 years who made me want to be something other than a monster." Elena's breath caught. Up close, she could see that Damon's eyes weren't just dark. They had flecks of gold in them, like treasure hidden in shadows. "I should leave," she whispered. "This is crazy. You're crazy. I'm crazy for even considering." "Then be crazy with me," Damon said quietly. "Stay. Let me take care of you and your mother. Let me give you the life you deserve." "And what do you get out of this?" "You in my life, in my home, safe and happy." "That's all." Damon's thumb brushed across her cheek. "For now, that's all I'll ask. Anything more, that's your choice, always your choice." Elena closed her eyes. This was insane. She should run, should go back to her apartment and her job and her normal, hard, painful life. But hadn't that life almost gotten her killed last night? And here, in Damon's arms, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hobie. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay for now. Damon's whole body relaxed. He pulled her into his arms, and Elena let him. She rested her head against his chest and heard his heart beating steady and strong. Thank you, he said into her hair, for trusting me. The next few days were strange and wonderful. Damon set Elena up with her own room, though he made it clear she was welcome anywhere in the penthouse. He took her to visit her mother at the new facility, and Elena cried when she saw how much better it was. Gloria had her own room with a view. The nurses were kind. The doctors actually seemed to care. How are you paying for this? Gloria asked, holding Elena's hand. Elena looked at Damon, who stood by the window giving them privacy. I have help now, Mama, good help. Gloria followed her daughter's gaze, her eyes narrowed. That man, he's dangerous. I know. But he cares for you. I think so. Gloria squeezed Elena's hand. Then hold on to him, baby. Good men are hard to find, even the dangerous ones. Elena visited her mother every day. Damon always went with her, though he stayed back, letting them have their time. But Elena noticed how he watched the hallways, how his men were always nearby, how no one ever bothered them or made them wait. Damon was protecting her, even here. At night they would eat dinner together in the penthouse. Damon cooked, which surprised Elena. He made simple food, pasta, steak, vegetables, but everything tasted amazing. Where did you learn to cook? Elena asked one night. I grew up in foster care, Damon said, not looking up from his plate. If you didn't cook, you didn't eat. I'm sorry. Don't be, it made me strong, made me understand that the world doesn't give you anything. You have to take it. Is that why you do what you do? Damon looked up. I do what I do because I'm good at it, because men like me are necessary. Someone has to control the chaos. Better me than someone with no principles. Do you have principles? Yes, I don't hurt women or children. I don't deal drugs. I don't allow human trafficking in my territory. And I protect what's mine with everything I have. Elena's heart skipped. Am I yours? Damon's eyes went dark. Do you want to be? She should say no, should keep distance between them. But the truth was, Elena had been falling for this man since the first time he left $100 tip. Yes, she whispered. Damon stood up slowly. He walked around the table and pulled Elena to her feet. His hands cupped her face like she was made of glass. Then you are, he said, and I am yours completely. He kissed her then, and Elena's world tilted. His lips were soft but demanding. His hands were gentle but possessive. He kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, Elena was breathless. I've wanted to do that since the first time I saw you, Damon said. Then why did you wait? Because you deserved the choice. You deserve everything, Elena, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you get it. Weeks turned into months. Elena quit her job at the diner. She didn't need it anymore, and besides, Damon didn't like her being somewhere he couldn't protect her easily. She spent her days visiting her mother, reading, learning about Damon's world. He never hid what he was from her. He ran a criminal empire. He controlled shipping, construction, real estate. He had politicians in his pocket and enemies who would kill him if they could. But he also had honor, rules. He protected his territory and the people in it. And he treated Elena like a queen. Expensive clothes appeared in her closet, jewelry that made her gasp, but more than that, he gave her his time, his attention, his heart. They would stay up late talking about everything and nothing. Damon told her about growing up alone, about fighting for everything he had, about building an empire from blood and determination. Elena told him about her father leaving when she was young, about raising herself while her mother worked 3 jobs, about dreaming of a better life but never believing it could happen. It's happening now, Damon said, pulling her close on the couch. Everything you ever wanted, I'll give it to you. I don't need things, Elena said. I just need you. And she meant it. 6 months after that terrible night when men broke into her apartment, Elena stood on the balcony of Damon's penthouse wearing a black dress that probably cost more than her car used to. Diamonds sparkled at her throat. Her hair was done professionally. Her nails were perfect. She looked like a different person. She felt like a different person. Damon stepped onto the balcony behind her. He wrapped his arms around her waist and rested his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how much has changed." "Regrets." Elena turned in his arms to face him. She looked up at this dangerous, powerful, wonderful man who had saved her life and then given her a new one. "Not a single one," she said. Damon smiled, a real smile that made him look younger, softer. "Good, because I have something for you." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Elena's heart stopped. "Damon." "I know we haven't been together long," he said, opening the box to reveal a ring that caught the city lights and threw them back like stars. "And I know my life is complicated and dangerous, but I've never been more sure of anything than I am of you. Marry me, Elena. Be my wife, my partner, my everything." Elena's eyes filled with tears. 6 months ago she had been drowning, alone, scared, desperate. Now she was standing on top of the world with a man who loved her enough to burn it all down if anyone threatened her. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Damon slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her like the world was ending, and she was the only thing worth saving. Below them, the city glittered. Somewhere out there, James Torino had learned what happened when you threatened what belonged to Damon Cale. Somewhere out there, Daniel and Mark were still terrified to even think Elena's name. But up here, above it all, Elena was safe. She was loved. She was home. Damon pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. "I love you," he said. Simple words, but coming from him, they meant everything. "I love you too," Elena said. "My dangerous, wonderful, complicated man." He laughed, and the sound was pure joy. "You're dangerous man who will kill anyone who looks at you wrong." "I know, and somehow that makes me feel safer than anything else in the world." They stood together on the balcony as the night grew deeper, two people who had found each other in the darkness and decided to build something beautiful out of blood and danger and unexpected love. Elena had texted one word, "Help." And Damon had brought 20 armed men and changed her entire life. It wasn't a fairy tale, it was better. It was real and messy and dangerous and perfect. It was theirs. And Elena Martinez, former broke waitress and now fiancée to the most dangerous man in the city, had never been happier. The woman who used to count pennies for bus fare now stood in diamonds on top of the world. The woman who used to be scared every day now felt safer than she ever had. The woman who used to be alone now had someone who would move heaven and earth to keep her safe. All because she had taken a chance on a man with dark eyes who left $100 tips and waited 6 months for her to let him in. Sometimes the monsters aren't the ones you need to fear. Sometimes the monsters are the ones who save you. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the monster falls in love with you and spends the rest of his life making sure you never have to be scared again. Elena looked at the ring on her finger and smiled. She had called for help, and Damon Cale had answered with everything he had. Thank you for watching. Would you text a mysterious stranger for help if your life depended on it? What would you do if a dangerous man saved you and wanted you forever? Drop your answers and location in the comments below. Subscribe for more thrilling stories. See you in the next one.